Welcome back to TECHMIMIC, where you can simply view, imitate, replicate, and get on with your day. In this tutorial, we're going to clone the entire system disk in Linux without going into too much technical detail. When I say cloning, I mean the creation of an exact copy of an existing hard drive or solid-state drive to another one. This can be used for backup purposes or to replace your existing hard disk. I'm showing this on Linux Mint, but it will be the exact same thing, or at least very similar, for any Linux distribution, Debian or Ubuntu based. This is because the same programs and command line utilities will be used. When you need to know how to resize, so shrinking or extending the root partition, there is a link in the description to another video for your convenience. If you would like to see this demonstrated on a different Linux distribution, or if there is any other disk or partition related task for which you would like to see a video, please leave a comment. To study the available partitions and their size, in Linux Mint we can open the menu, click Preferences, and then Disks. The Disks utility we are looking at now is available in Linux Mint, Debian and Ubuntu, and the results will be the same because they all use the same underlying program called GNOME Disks. In my machine, there is currently only one physical hard disk, so let's click this on the left hand side and this will open the partition information. This is a 120 GB SSD drive and there are 3 partitions labeled as partition 1, 2 and 3. When you click each partition, you can find the device name to which it is known to Linux. The drive itself is known as dev SDA and the first partition will be dev SDA1. Following that logic, the next partition is dev SDA2 and the third one dev SDA3. When you click around and check the available options for something like clone or copy, you won't be able to find any because the disk application doesn't offer this functionality. Now close the application and open a terminal. Now before you click away, I know that many really dislike the terminal. But after following this video, you will see that in this case, it is actually the easiest method to clone the entire system disk straight from Linux without having to boot from a live USB drive like with other methods like gparted or CloneZilla. Each will have its own pros and cons, especially when it comes to the functionality and adjustments you can make, but allow me to explain it without too much technical details to keep the video pragmatic. But don't be intimidated by the terminal, it can be your best friend at times. By the end of this video, you will see that you really only need one command. Type lsblk. This will look very similar to the earlier graphical disks application, but now presented in text. It shows a tree-like layout of your disk drive, and at this point there is still only one, known to the system as SDA. We have seen this earlier in the disks application as /dev/SDA. And then the 3 partitions marked as SDA1, SDA2, and SDA3. If you would like a bit more information, you could add the -f option to lsblk, lsblk-f. Now, just a bit more information is displayed, including the UUID or unique identifier of the disk, and this is handy if you have multiple of them and you are trying to figure out which is which. The next command is completely optional, but I will show it to you in case you prefer this. It is sudo fdisk-l. This will show similar information again, but presented in a slightly different way. But you are now back to seeing dev SDA instead of just SDA. This one actually comes closest to the graphical disks application. Now that we have studied the initial configuration, it is time to shut down the machine, open it up, and then attach the second hard disk. The method I'm about to show you will, by the way, also work if you attach your external hard disk via a USB adapter. So if you just want to make a backup of your system disk, that could be an alternative without actually having to remove the cover from your PC. After it is attached, boot back into Linux again and start the disks application. Now there are 2 disks visible. The original or source disk with its 3 partitions on device dev SDA, and the new or target disk is also listed. In this example, I'm using a second hard disk that is exactly the same make and model, but you can of course use another disk just as well. But keep in mind that the target disk you are cloning to is at least the same size as the source disk. At least using this method, it cannot be smaller in size. I will explain in a bit why this is. The new disk is presenting itself as defsdb, where B is of course the next letter in the alphabet, and it has currently no partitions, and there is only free or unallocated space available. If you are reusing an existing disk, there could be partitions that you can now remove. This is optional because the method we're going to install will override everything on the target disk, including existing partitions. However, if the target disk has a different partition table, for example MBR versus GPT, it is a good idea to remove the partitions first. This is more of a technical comment, so ignore this if you need to. Just make it look like this, with only free space listed, and you are ready to go. Go back to the terminal and the lsblk command. defsda, with its 3 partitions, is still there, and the new disk defsdb is visible without any partitions, just like we saw before in the disks application. After all of this preparation, it is now finally time to clone the system disk, and we can do this while Linux is running. The command we need is the dd command, and dd stands for data duplicator, but if you are not careful, it can be data destroyer just as well. dd reads the contents of the media at a block level, and it creates a one-to-one copy, bit for bit, resulting in an exact identical copy of a disk. Type sudo dd if equals /def/sda, of equals /def/sdb. if stands for the input file, this is the source disk, and of stands for output file, and this is of course the target disk. Then type bs equals for capital M and status equals progress. By using the status equals progress parameter, you will get some feedback of the progress, because if you don't specify this, it will be complete silence while you wait. Also, we have specified a block size of 4 MB, which will speed up the cloning process of larger disks somewhat, compared to a smaller block size. Again, as I noted earlier, lots of details are left out of this video purposely, so more advanced users might disagree with or adjust the block size, but 4 MB will get the job done. Hit enter and type your password. Now the command will be executed, and even if you have, let's say, a 500 GB disk that is only filled for 50 GB, it is still going to copy the full 500 GB, because as mentioned, the dd command provides a bit-for-bit copy, including the free space. This is also why this method will fail if you try to clone to a target disk that is smaller in size than the source disk, with a no space left on device or similar error message. Again, many alternatives are possible, and feel free to share in the comments, but my aim for this video is to keep things as simple as possible. Because the actual cloning of the disk can take a while, it is now time to go grab a nice cup of coffee. Once done, check if the records in and records out match. And optionally, you could now type sync to ensure that all pending disk writes are fully committed before you proceed to the next step, but if you just waited a little while, this should be done automatically. Check again with lsblk, and the target disk defsdb should now have 3 partitions: defsdb1, sdb2, and sdb3. And this makes sense because of course defsdb is now an exact replica or clone of defsda. If you want, you can also confirm this graphically once again by opening the disks application. You are now done, and you can store your target disk with the exact copy of your system disk on the shelf as a backup, or when you wanted to replace your system disk, shut down the machine, remove it and replace it with the target disk. That's it. Hope it helped, and if it did, please like the video and keep it up. Until next time, bye!